You click this video for a reason, and that's because Halloween Horror Nights has officially announced everything. And when I say everything, oh brother, I mean all the houses, all the scare zones, and the show. So, stay tuned while we get into every single ounce of detail that has come out of this announcement. To make this as simple as possible, I'm going to read off of the press release that was sent to us by Universal Orlando Resort. The final countdown is on an impending doom that awaits guests at Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights. For a record-breaking 48 select nights, September 1st through November 4th, the world's premier Halloween event is back with 10 eerily immersive haunted houses, 5 terrifying scare zones, outrageous live entertainment, and so much more that brings to life top icons in horror and chilling original stories, including one that resurrects a bit of Universal's past. And now that we have that description out of the way, I'm going to give you the 10 haunted houses. I will give you the house, and then I'll give you the description that comes along with it. First, here we have The Last of Us. For the first time ever, Naughty Dog and PlayStation's award-winning post-pandemic video game The Last of Us comes to life in an all-new haunted house that propels guests into an obstacle course of carnage and mayhem as they join a brutal journey in a world overtaken by a fungal virus that turns humans into various forms of a new threat known as the Infected. Guests will find themselves navigating iconic locations from the video game in a desperate attempt to escape and survive. Stranger Things 4 is the next house we're going to talk about. Season 4 of Netflix's original series Stranger Things is brought to life in a terrifying all-new haunted house that transports guests to Hawkins, Indiana, where they will be immersed in the eerie upside down for a heart-pounding experience while traveling through iconic scenes. Guests will confront their deepest fears and come face to face with otherworldly creatures like Demobats and even Vecna himself within his blood-red mind layer in a race against the clock to escape and save mankind from his deadly curse. Following that, we have The Exorcist Believer, inspired by Universal Pictures' terrifying new horror film from Blumhouse and Morgan Creek Entertainment. The Exorcist Believer haunted house will transport guests to a bustling street market in Haiti, where an innocent purchase of a strange folk doll with 3 eyes leads to the opening of a demonic portal, the awakening of sinister spirits, and the subsequent disappearance of 2 12-year-old girls in the United States. The girls are found 3 days later with no memory of what happened to them. After the girls begin to exhibit unsettling behavior, it soon becomes clear that only an exorcism can save them, and everyone who comes in contact with them, including unwitting guests, is suddenly at risk of losing their souls. Now for this next house, which is Chucky Ultimate Kill Count. I don't want to read off the press release because the press release says a little bit of a lie. It says his very own haunted house for the first time. This isn't the first time he ever has a haunted house. So I'm actually going to give you guys some information that was in the Discover Universal podcast. So the Chucky house is based on the show, but then Chucky shows up to the actual house, gets mad that no one is actually dying in the house, so kills everyone instead, including the creators of the house, and maybe even some of the attendants. And our final intellectual property house is Universal Monsters Unmasked, the dank catacombs of Paris House, a much darker secret 60 feet beneath the bustling streets. As the all-new haunted house Universal Monsters Unmasked takes guests down into the infamous burial grounds where every corner and crevice overflows with millions of skeletal remains and even more sinister secrets. Deep within the catacombs, Universal's most notorious creatures, the Phantom of the Opera, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Dr. Jekyll and his deranged alternate personality, Mr. Hyde, and Dr. Jack Griffin, also known as the Invisible Man, lie in wait as they bide time and seek vengeance against guests after the opening of the catacombs to public visitation. These desperate and dangerous fiends have become filled with rage toward guests navigating the twisted tunnels of their underground labyrinth home. And now, stepping away from the intellectual property houses, we're going to start talking about the originals, and starting off with that, we have Dr. Oddfellow, Twisted Origins. In the 1930s Dust Bowl era, guests won't be able to resist going inside Dr. Oddfellow's menacing menagerie of twisted oddities, where they'll encounter grotesquely distorted animals and freakish fiends in Dr. Oddfellow Twisted Origins. The price to enter this creepy caravan is steep, as souls feed his immortal power. And now I just want to say this. I listened to the Discover Universal podcast earlier as well for this, and they talked about how a certain little clown might be making an appearance in this haunted house. However, it won't be his entire persona, but be on lookout for a silhouette as you may witness a piece of Horror Nights history right there. Now, while on the topic of history, might as well go back into attraction history, or well, now haunted house history, because we're going into Dueling Dragons Choose Thy Fate. The great wizard Merlin has transformed into the enchanted oak, leaving a power vacuum. When two powerful warlocks invade his castle to steal his spellbook, they are turned into dragons of fire and ice. Now guests are caught in the middle of their battle and are forced to choose a path and a victor. But beware, no one knows who will win in Dueling Dragons Choose Thy Fate. And now bouncing back to that podcast again, they did state that there will be multiple endings to this haunted house, 4 to be exact. So from everything I'm hoping here, I hope this is a dual path house at the end, maybe a choose your fate, kind of like you did on the attraction where you choose to go on fire or ice. That'd be a nice little touch. And now moving forward, our next house is Yeti Campground Kills. In a 1950s campground, a group of towering, terrifying Yetis are running rampant, ripping apart campers, rangers, and anyone else who gets in their way. In Yeti Campground Kills, guests must flee through a campground into cabins, a bait shack, and even the outhouse in hopes of making it to the Ranger Tower before it's too late. And following that, we have The Darkest Deal. In the Mississippi Delta, blues musician Pinstraw Spruce meets a crossroads with a diabolical entity known as the Collector to make a deal, his soul for musical glory. Guests will witness his big breaking performance for a crowd before the Collector drags him to Hades with the other musicians who learned the terrible price of fame in Darkest Deal. After that, we have Blood Moon Dark Offerings. Colonial era villagers begin to worship the moon obsessively. When the blood moon rises at their fall festival, they take it as a sign that they must hunt down any non-followers within the village. Guests will need to try not to become part of the sacrifice as they gather body parts to form a grisly offering in Blood Moon Dark Offerings. And now moving away from the haunted houses, we will talk about the scare zones, and one thing that I will say before diving into them completely, I love the fact that they're all tied in together and the fact that we might actually have an icon this year. You might see what I mean when I finish talking about all the scare zones. And the first scare zone we have here is Dr. Oddfellow's Collection of Horror. Dr. Oddfellow will lure guests into Halloween Horror Nights with a promise of immortality, as he lifts the veil on all the horrors to become. They'll soon realize they may not even survive the night. Up next we have Dark Zodiac. Dr. Oddfellow has entered a dark dimension to harness the power of the Zodiac and live forever. He twists the signs into malevolent beings who foretell one's dooms. As his star rises, yours fall. Following that, we have Jungle of Doom Expedition Horror. In the 1920s, Dr. Oddfellow ventured deep into the darkest jungle, performing horrific experiments on nature. Now his monstrous creatures are running amok and on the hunt. And our next scare zone is Vamp 69 Summer of Blood. At a 60s music fest in a small New York town, guests will jam to popular bands with fellow concertgoers until Dr. Oddfellow unleashes vicious vampires on the audience that are out for blood. And now our final scare zone is Shipyard 32 Horrors Unhinged. Enter a 1940s San Francisco shipping yard full of mysterious crates and cages bearing Dr. Oddfellow's symbol. Beware, his nightmarish oddities have now escaped, spreading fear and chaos in their wake. And now you can kind of see what I mean by there's an icon here, but they didn't state that there's an icon because none of the commercials pointed towards it. But all 5 of these scare zones all mention Dr. Oddfellow's influence, and he has his own haunted house. Therefore, just by process of elimination, Oddfellow basically is the icon this year. So, nice touch. And then finally, we have our live entertainment for this year's event, and it is Nightmare Fuel Revenge Dream. The show that sparked the darkest of dreams has reignited. Nightmares burn out of control as pyro and aerial performers fire guests up to the beat of metal and electronica. Now, altogether, this ties in to be a perfect Horror Nights event. Now, the one thing that they did also mention in the press release is the fact that the tribute store is going to be a mysterious NYC comic book shop. And you're going to be able to experience the tribute to terror stepping into the pages of this comic book, kind of like a creep show vibe, which is really cool if I'm not going to lie to you, and I can't wait to experience this firsthand. Along with this, we also have confirmation that the Red Coconut Club will be once again transforming into the Dead Coconut Club, which is pretty awesome. And then, of course, they gave us some examples of some of the food that will be featured at this year's event, and that is Bloody Campground Poutine, El Pastor Torta, and Sour Apple Pie funnel fries. And then, of course, we can never forget the delicious pizza fries as well. And then also something that's new this year, but I have no idea where it is because they didn't specify it. We'll probably find out more details about it later. We have Peacock's Halloween Horror Bar. It's going to feature some themed drinks with an ominous nightclub vibe, photo opportunities, and more. So maybe we'll find out more about that very soon. And now something else that's really nice is, for the first time ever, the fog's going to spread to all 8 of Universal Orlando's hotels with some exclusive activities and experiences in all of them, including Universal's Cabana Bay, which is going to have Chucky's Twisted Playground, which will be a photo experience similar to the Monsters thing they had last year and the Jack thing they had the year prior. And then in addition to that, in the lobby of all the other hotels, there will be a Universal Monsters Gallery of Legends photo opportunity. So I can't wait to see what all this is going to tie into. If I'm being 100% honest, I am beyond stoked for this event. And if you guys want to see like my hype list, it's coming. I still don't know where I'm going to place anything. The whole event looks amazing. So I want to know, let me know down below. Comment down below what you think is going to be the first house you go to for this year's Horror Nights. Let me know. I'm just curious. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what I just told you to comment. Subscribe if you guys already haven't done so. And stay excellent, my dudes.